So, I'm doing these type of videos now. A few weeks ago, Mr.Enter uploaded a video where he talked about the current state of Cartoon Network. In general, I thought it was a decent video and I recommend you check it out, but there are certain points he made that I do want to tackle. Some are good, others are bad. At first, I'm going to address something he said right around the beginning of the video.
Currently, I reviewed 7 episodes of Teen Titans Go, and I got a lot of flack for this because I have the reputation, as much as the entire cartoon reviewing community, whatever you want to call us, is just going on and on about Teen Titans Go.
Now, this isn't something related to Cartoon Network, but actually more related to Enter himself. One of the biggest criticisms Enter receives is the fact that he reviews Teen Titans Go a lot. Honestly, this is a complaint I never really understood. Mr. Enter has 391 videos, and out of all of them, 7 are about Teen Titans Go, and it usually takes months before uploading each one of them. How is that too much? And it's not like he's just repeating himself or something. In every animated atrocity covering Teen Titans Go, he reviews one individual episode, and each one of them usually have different reasons for why they were bad. Like, this honestly shocks me given that I've seen channels that actually do upload too much Teen Titans Go videos that are just pretty much recycled material, but for some reason Enter is the ultimate sinner when it comes to this. I mean, sure, at the end of the day, he ended up mostly talking about Teen Titans Go, which kind of contradicts with what he said here, but still, I'm glad he brought this up. But there are two things he said about Teen Titans Go that I actually don't agree with him.
If I may, it's hypocritical to say that I talk about Teen Titans Go too much when you compare it to how much it actually gets played. You can't be angry at me for talking about Teen Titans Go too much and not be angry at Cartoon Network for overplaying it.
That's not true. Now, obviously, I can't speak for everyone, but I can guarantee you that the people who criticize you for uploading too much Teen Titans Go videos probably also criticize the network for airing it too much. Heck, pretty much everyone nowadays complains that Cartoon Network airs Teen Titans Go a lot.
I came across this schedule again, and this is, like I said, for this coming weekend. And if you take a look at Saturday, it is from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. straight, just Teen Titans Go. I'm done supporting a network that can't fucking have any diversity, and until they get some new shows or get some better lineups, I'm turning the channel. I'm turning over to Disney or Nickelodeon or fucking who gives a Netflix. I'll watch reruns of Rick and Morty on Hulu because I'm done.
Also, comparing the number of Teen Titans Go videos you made with the number of reruns of Teen Titans Go is probably not the best comparison since reruns are airings of already previously aired episodes.
That it's tempting to do the same thing over and over again, especially if they get good ratings. But as a creator, you need variety or you will die, or you will want to die. Teen Titans Go is a hit now, sure, but trends fade and tastes evolve. The kids that it panders to are growing up. It's been on the air for 4 years now. Sooner or later, the first generation audience of the show is going to be, in its own words, too old for cartoons.
Alright, here's the issue I have with this statement. For starters, you are again mixing number of episodes with number of reruns. Sure, the people who for some reason spend 24 hours watching a single network instead of doing something else as a side hobby, they're probably going to get sick of Teen Titans Go, exclusively the episodes that have already aired, but for the actual creators, nothing's going to change. Teen Titans Go only has 4 seasons. Sure, some cartoons can't hit seasonal rots at this phase, but some don't. Granted, every season of Teen Titans Go has like 52 11-minute episodes, which is more than a lot of cartoons. And you know what? If Enter had just brought up how CN orders too much episodes for each season, maybe I would have agreed with him. But what ruined his argument for me was the fact that he associated Cartoon Network's schedule. I think it's possible for the people behind the creative process of Teen Titans Go to still have something to offer to the table, and the fact that their already produced episodes are constantly being aired isn't going to change that. Secondly, about the growing up part, you're right, I'll give you that. Kids eventually grow up, and given how Teen Titans Go is, how do I say, childish, it's possible that once they grow up, they won't look at Teen Titans Go very fondly. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that the next generation of kids won't like it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they will, but if shows like SpongeBob and The Simpsons can go on for this long and garner a new generation of fans, is it that unlikely that Teen Titans Go might suffer the same fate? Granted, SpongeBob and The Simpsons started off as great shows and later faced a drop in quality, while Teen Titans Go was never really that great to begin with. So, That could potentially be a key factor. Though then again, I don't know. I can't determine the taste in cartoons of the future generation of children. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Although I'm more leaning towards Enter's predictions, I really don't think Teen Titans Go will last very long. Alright, I'm done with Teen Titans Go. It's time to tackle the real reason for why I decided to make this video. Mr. Enter said some things about the Powerpuff Girls that I'm not particularly satisfied with. Here's why.
Original Powerpuff Girls went on too long and suffered from seasonal rot, with these terrible episodes about the girls peeling from a sunburn, and another one where they figure out who was wetting the bed. Powerpuff Girls in seasons 5 and 6, it got bad, really bad. During this time, we also had the Powerpuff Girls movie. It was a box office bomb. Whether you like it or not, and it's not perfect.
Okay, I have three main issues with what he said here. First of all, he said the reason why seasons 5 and 6 of the Powerpuff Girls suffered a drop in quality is because it went on for too long, but this was also around the time Craig McCracken and Lauren Foss abandoned the show to work on Foster's, not to mention they had also lost Gandhi, who left the show years back to work on Samurai Jack. Now of course I can't disprove Enter's statement since it's possible that even if they had stayed, they would still be burned out, but I think it's at least reasonable to assume that perhaps the reason the show went downhill is because they lost key writers, directors, and, well, the creator. Secondly, the Powerpuff Girls movie wasn't really released around the same time seasons 5 and 6 came along. Sure, they might share the same art style and all, but the movie was released in 2002, while season 5 only started airing in 2003, even if it is just a small gap. Thirdly, he said the movie wasn't perfect as a way to prove that the Powerpuff Girls franchise was going downhill. Here's the thing, I actually don't disagree with Enter here. The Powerpuff Girls movie really isn't perfect, but neither was the original series. Just because a movie isn't perfect doesn't necessarily mean it isn't good. Honestly, this problem would have been fixed if he had just said the movie was bad or just average. That way your analogy would make more sense. He mentioned how the movie was also a box office failure, which isn't really a good argument for why a franchise is facing a drop in quality. Being a box office failure doesn't necessarily mean the movie was bad, it just means it wasn't capable of selling enough tickets, which could be a result of a number of things like marketing, promotion, etc. Now, one could say he only brought up the box office because he wanted to prove that there wasn't enough demand for the show to the point where a reboot is needed. Now, if that's the case, well, that's debatable, but I think there's some reasoning behind this argument. However, if that's what Mr. Enter was trying to prove, then I'm afraid he didn't do a very good job transitioning from quality of the show to demand for the show. However, I will give Mr. Enter some props for pointing out how the writers and executives behind the Powerpuff Girls 2016 seriously need to think through the implications. Alright, let's put the negativity temporarily on hold for a bit. Let's talk about something Mr. Enter said in the video that actually caught my attention.
Say it. This era is worse than the Snyder era. I know that might be controversial, but at least the live action shows had somewhat of variety.
Now, before I say anything, let me just say I don't share the same opinion as him. I think the Snyder era was way worse than our current era. But I will say it's actually not that silly to think that the Christina Miller era is worse. Now, a lot of people when talking about the Snyder era seem to only fixate on his first 3 years. Stuart Snyder was the CEO of Cartoon Network for 7 years and left in 2014. So in other words, Snyder was also in charge when Cartoon Network Renaissance began. You know, the early 2010s when shows like Adventure Time, Regular Show, and Gumball came along. Now granted, I don't quite think the Stuart Snyder era was better. I mean, this was the same era where the likes of Craig McCracken, Maxwell Adams, C.H. Greenblatt, and others had to leave because the network was taking a new direction. This was the same era where we had to sit through CN Reel, and while I do admit I've never seen any live action shows from Cartoon Network besides Out of Jimmy's Head, given the negative backlash it received from fans and how it prevented Cartoon Network from releasing new cartoons in 2009, despite the channel literally being called Cartoon Network, I think I have every right to say that this was not a good time to be alive. And even though the channel somewhat redeemed itself after the 2000s ended, there were still a few live action shows airing in this era and there were still a few crappy cartoons here and there. This was the same era where the channel gave a huge middle finger to DC Nation and Symbionic Titan. While Christina Miller era has its fair share of problems, like the terrible schedule, terrible reboots, and a few manufactured crap here and there, the era isn't as bad in my opinion. We still have good shows currently airing like Gumball, Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Clarence, We Bear Bears, OKKO, and probably others, and even though their schedules are terrible and they do a poor job promoting their shows, they still air new episodes when they have to. And I think there's a streaming service you can use to watch all of your favorite modern cartoons whenever you want. There are also a few upcoming shows that look promising, except Villainous, and some of the shorts and pilots they release in their official YouTube channels look pretty dang good. Don't get me wrong, I'm not fully satisfied with this era, and this is far from being my favorite, but I don't think it's as bad as many people are labeling it to be. Overall, I think this was a decently well put together video that managed to start a conversation. Sure, I disagree with some of the things he said, and I do think some of his arguments were a bit weak, but in general, I think Enter gave Cartoon Network fair criticism, especially the part where he called out the network for acting like a toy company. I'm thinking of doing this more often, sort of reviewing or responding to YouTube videos. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.